Hey, you're back listening to the Get Out of Debt Guy show with the old Get Out of Debt Guy, Steve Rode. That's me. And the new Get Out Debt Guy, Damon Day. That is you, Damon.
That is me. I am him.
Before I forget, because I often do forget, that if you have a question and you want to reach out, I'm not helping people personally anymore. That's why I'm the old Get Out of Debt Guy.
He's too old to help anybody.
Yeah, I'll write my ass off on getoutdebt.org, but you can find Damon at damonday.com, DAMONDAY.com. Now, Damon, today we're talking about something that has frosted my whatever for
Frosted
years.
your Wheaties.
Frosted my Wheaties for years because, people wonder why some debt relief companies promise the moon, but somehow people still end up buried in debt. We've seen it all the time, but here's the hard truth. Many of these salespeople at debt relief companies will say whatever it takes to get your money because they don't get paid to give you good, sound financial advice. They earn a commission when they sell you their program, whether it's right for you or not. So today, we're pulling back the curtain on these shady tactics, and we're going to show you how to spot the red flags before you get taken for a ride. Damon, give me your top examples of, sometimes I think that the way you can tell if a debt relief salesperson is lying is just if they're talking.
That's a little riff on a lawyer joke, I sound, Steve.
Yeah. Do we cheat them and how?
Yeah. The law firm of Do We Cheat 'Em and How? I think on my old website, I had one that was law firm of Bend 'Em Over and Cheat 'Em.
Yeah. Got a money question keeping you up at night? Well, don't just Google it. Get real answers from real people who actually know what they're talking about. Head to getoutofdebt.org/podcast to ask your question, and you might hear it on an upcoming episode. But hey, if you'd rather keep it private, Damon Day has your back. Visit DAMONDAY.com because getting out of debt is easier with the right help. That's getoutofdebt.org/podcast, where smart money questions lead to smarter money moves.
No, so we've done this show so many times. When did we start this podcast, Steve?
2014, I think?
14 or something?
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to those old shows, we've been saying the same thing for over a decade now. And I feel like we're just repeating ourselves. But I also know that the podcast is actually growing pretty nicely. And a lot of people that call me or, hey, I heard you guys on a podcast on my morning walk for the first time last week and da-da-da-da. So I know that even though we feel like we've beat this subject to death, and we how many different ways can we say it?
Right.
But most of the people that probably hear this podcast have not heard a podcast from us in 2015.
Well,
right?
all right. But let's be clear why that happens is because nobody wakes up in the morning normally and says, I really want to learn more about debt and how to get out of debt. No, so it all of a sudden becomes a priority because, the crap hit the fan and you're panicked and stressed and afraid. And so now you start looking for information. So this is an update on, it's almost biblical. In fact, I bet it is biblical because, it's don't cheat your neighbor. It's commandment 11.
Words of wisdom from the old Get Out of Debt guy.
Yeah.
Old guy insights.
Yeah, I saw it on the tablet that got dropped. But
it broke off a piece.
Don't trust debt sales relief people. That was number 12. Because this is just the old flim-flam misdirect to get your money.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and over the years, it hasn't really changed at all. And it's just, I hate making like blanket statements about all this stuff, but I hear it day in and day out. Oh, I talked to that settlement company. I talked to a debt management company. I talked to this, I talked to that, and they said this or they said that. And I always have to resist the urge to say, well, that's bullshit, because I also remember that, this is the first time that consumer has been hearing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing it for 20 years and it's been bullshit for 20 years.
Right.
But I can't just come off and say, oh, that's total bullshit. But what I can say is, well, that's not entirely accurate. And let me tell you why it's not accurate. And then as I explain things, it just, I can use common sense, but with the knowledge of how all this stuff works. And then it makes a lot of sense. But the problem with these debt relief companies, it all boils down to one thing. And that one thing is that you're talking to somebody that was hired to a company in almost every case, not 100% of the time, but 95% of the time.
Yeah.
The individual that you are talking to is just a salesperson working in a sales job. They could have been selling alarm systems 3 months ago, for all you know. And now they're in this company, they got this new job, and they're
They got
working
the
on
script.
commission. They watched a couple of training videos,
Yeah.
on what they're selling, and they have the basic idea of what they're selling. They have their objection sheet to overcome, and their sole job, the way they feed their family, right? And it's not their fault. They're just doing their job.
Right.
But their job is to call these leads or respond to these leads because you filled out something online or whatever. And their job is to show them or convince them that whatever their financial problem is, it can be solved by this debt settlement solution or this debt management program or whatever it is. Their job is to say, okay, you've got debt. A Vanilla Ice lyric just popped into my head. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. When my DJ revolves it, ice, ice, baby. That's what they do. I think they listen to that in the break room, right? Like that's their motivation. But again, I don't think they're bad people. They just don't know what they're doing. And their focus is to say, hey, forget about everything else. Don't look at anything else. We are going to solve this problem. And let me tell you why. And here's the contract. You got to get it signed. You got to get in here. And the problem is there is no one size fits all. I don't care if you're talking to bankruptcy, debt settlement, credit counseling, Dave Ramsey. There is no one size fits all. And all of these programs are set up to be my size fits all.
Yeah, it's like buying one size of pants.
Just tighten the belt. It's fine. Looks good.
Yeah. So one of the things over the years that has been perpetually true, it goes in waves kind of, but you and I will say all these things and we will get debt relief salespeople who will come and comment or shout at us or scream, you don't know what you're doing. You're saying you're giving wrong information, all this stuff. The funny thing is that they don't have any experience. They're not financial people. Bless their hearts, but they're only repeating what they've been told. And then inevitably, a year or two down the line, I will get them coming back to me
privately
and giving me like anonymous posts about inside a debt relief salesperson's day. And right before they quit.
They quit because they can't. It's because, again, I don't think they're bad people. They're just doing a job. But then the longer they're there and they start to, the emperor has no clothes.
Right.
All this stuff, and then they realize what has been happening because they're there long enough to see, well, wait a minute, I told this person this, and this. I thought I was helping them. Right? Like, I want to help you. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then they see the end result of it. Wait a minute, that didn't provide that person any help. That actually made their situation worse. And now I feel like I'm horrible. And now they're torn. They're conflicted. Maybe they're making good money by this point. And they're supporting their family, and then now they're at this confliction. Like, do I quit? What do I keep pushing this? What do I do?
I can't do it anymore. And then the other thing that happens too is they get such pushback from people. Like, why is this happening? You promised me this. That they then, I don't know why, they just start delivering the worst possible customer service and ignoring people and not responding, which just makes everything so much worse.
Yeah. So the point is, and there's a lot of stuff, but I can boil it down to this one thing very simply. There is no one size fits all. And here's the crux of the problem here is when you call a debt settlement company, their job is to tell you all the wonderful things about their company. Unfortunately, it's your job as the consumer to determine if you need what they're selling. You call a bankruptcy attorney. They're going to tell you how they can solve the problem with bankruptcy. It's your job as the consumer to determine if you need what they're selling you. Call it debt management.
Or credit counseling. You're going to do the same thing.
It's your job as the consumer. And that right there is the problem. Right. It's your job as the person that doesn't know anything about this stuff.
Who's very stressed. and
if
emotional.
you should be doing something that the salesperson is telling you is the best thing in the world. And that is where the problem is. The person with the least amount of information is supposed to make a very important decision about a $100,000 debt based on what salespeople are telling them. And
Well,
that is where all the problems start.
if somebody doesn't want to reach out to you or talk to, get some independent advice, what I always suggest for years is talk to a bankruptcy attorney, talk to a debt settlement company, talk to a credit counselor, and then do nothing. Let it percolate for at least a week. Think about it. Ask your additional questions. Like, one of the additional questions nobody seems to ask of a credit counseling group is, okay, if I make this payment for 5 years to you and I'm not able to save money during those 5 years, I'm in my 40s. What do you have to say about the fact that I'm now going to lose a couple $100,000 in retirement saving because I directed payments to you? And the other thing, too, is that when it comes to credit counseling companies, they will advertise and promote that they're nonprofit. But let me tell you, after being a person that ran a nonprofit credit counseling debt management company for many years, employees inside of that you're talking to, they may not be directly commissioned, but they all want to keep their jobs. So, they're indirectly commissioned by, I want to show numbers that show that, I'm bringing more people on board. So everybody's got their pressures and widget, and it's up to you to make sure that you're doing the best thing for you and your family.
Yeah. And that's not everybody's selling something. That's just the way the world works. I mean, it's just commerce, right? Everybody's selling something. So I'm not saying, well, I'm not selling anything. Everybody else trying to sell you. I sell something too. The difference is, as a consumer, you have to figure out what you need to be buying. And the difference between what I sell versus what a debt relief salesperson sells is I'm selling advice initially, right? What I'm selling is, hey, do you think it would be a wise move to have a conversation with somebody like me, or a series of conversations with somebody that's been in this industry for almost 25 years now? And you could say, hey, can we sit down and let's just go over my situation? Let me talk to you about where I'm at in my life right now, how I got here, where I'm trying to go. And let's look at my numbers. Let's look at what I make. Let's look at what I spend. Let's look at who I owe what money to.
Yeah.
And let's really kind of flesh out these different strategies. I'm hearing about bankruptcy. I'm hearing about this debt settlement stuff. I'm hearing about credit counseling. And, I've been listening to Dave Ramsey stuff, and I've been trying to do that for a while. And I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I just don't know what to do. I've seen all these ads. I've called all these people. I'm really more confused than I was when I started. Can you just, explain it to me? What should I do? And we can look at the numbers, and we can look at what's even financially feasible. And then we can talk about pros and cons of the different strategies and what to do, and really figure out, okay, not only do we figure out what you should do, but even more importantly, why you should be doing it. Because you should not be making any major financial decisions without understanding why you're doing it, what are the ramifications of the actions you're about to take, and what were the alternatives that you have researched and decided were not as optimal as the road you're taking. And the way you can't do that is just by calling several debt settlement companies and several credit counseling companies and trying to decide which salesperson sounded the best and the most sincere. That's how you end up getting in trouble, and then realizing 6 months down the road that, oops, maybe I should have went a different direction. Had I known this or had I known that, I would have made a different decision. So the point is, it's on you as the consumer to make the best decision for you and your family. And the only way you can do that is to have some knowledge about the ins and outs of these different options and have that applied to your specific situation. So you can say, okay, I know this road I'm going to go down is going to be bumpy, but I know it's not going to drop me off a cliff like this other road. So I'm going to cross that off the list.
Well, you might get a debt relief salesperson telling you about how if you don't sign up for the program, the world is going to end. Or
you might get them saying that. They always say that.
Well, the other thing that they always say too is they make the most magical promises that are not based on reality. Like, we'll protect you. You'll never get sued. All this other stuff. It's just to make the sale. It has nothing to do with reality.
Oh, I call that the fake law firm. We're a law firm. We're going to do this. We're going to protect you. We're going to provide this. Yeah. Most of the time, it's rent a name attorney, right? It's not a law firm that's going to be protecting you. And what are they going to do? Ask them. What are they going to do? If I get sued, oh yeah, we're going to provide you legal representation. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Everybody can get legal representation. It doesn't mean you're going to win.
It also
And
doesn't mean that attorney is going to go to court to defend you.
it absolutely means the attorney is not going to go to court to
Right.
defend you, because they don't do that. Now,
Right.
they give the impression that that's what they would do. But if you're with a debt settlement company, we're going to give you legal representation. Well, if you get sued, all that means is they're going to try to get that debt settled, just like was their original job. But yet somehow you're spending extra money for this magical legal representation. What's the name of the attorney that's going to be reviewing my case?
Yeah, in my state.
Yeah.
Who's
What attorney
licensed in
is
my
going to go
state?
to court for me? Do you have a name for me? Oh, no. Guarantee you they won't have the name of the attorney that's
Yeah.
going to show up to court if you get sued. How come you don't have the name of that attorney? Aren't I going to have legal representation?
Right. I would
Nobody
like to
asked
talk
those
to
questions.
I would like to talk to my attorney. No,
Oh,
we
well,
can't do that. No.
oh yeah. Yeah, try to talk to your attorney with a debt settlement company. That'll happen. It says, well, we have to first find somebody.
Hey, it just occurred to me, one of my favorite lines has been, well, we included this in your debt relief plan and you got sued. So now we're just going to drop that from your plan.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my favorite too is when you call to cancel. Then trying to cancel, it's easier just not to sign up in the first place. But unfortunately, a lot of clients come to me after they've signed up and they've been a member of a debt settlement company or even a credit counseling company for 6 months or a year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the bloom's starting to come off the rose, and, what they thought they were signing up for turns out to not be quite what they actually signed up for. So they had to get themselves, extricated from that
Mm-hmm.
program, which is kind of difficult to do when they already have $10,000 of yours and you're trying to get it back. It's much better, if you can, to not give them the $10,000 in the first place. But if you, unfortunately, are in that situation, trying to get out of it, in most cases, it's harder than quitting the gym. They're going to throw every reason out there at you of why you're a loser and why you can't possibly cancel, and your life is going to get absolutely ruined. And if you cancel, you're going to get your wages garnished. And they try to throw everything at you. And as a consumer that doesn't know, maybe all the ins and outs, it can sound like really scary stuff. And
Well,
so
that's
a lot
why-
of people just stay in it and go, oh, okay, well, I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to keep sending you $1,000 a month. Thank you.
Well, that's why I always encourage people to read their client agreement. They don't do it. They just, it's a long, wordy document and they just click, click, click. But if you go in and read it, you will find things like anti-disparagement clauses or no refunds, no cancellation. Or if you do cancel and we give you some money back, we're going to require you to sign this document and you can't say anything bad about us. Now, I just had a comment from somebody on my getoutofdebt.org site who has been working with a company. This has been going on for years. And she says, her name is Tracy. She says she was promised consolidate my debt, one low monthly fee, no collection calls or letters. They'll take care of everything. She says, 1 year in, I'm summoned to court for the full amount that I originally owed. My wages have been garnished and I couldn't call or log in and reach my debt relief person that handled my case. They were gone. And now I owe taxes on this forgiven debt. And she goes, I want to find somewhere I can sue the company. Well, individual consumers just don't have enough money and resources to sue companies that are fleecing people out of millions of dollars.
Well, she brought up a good point. That's another thing about, potential tax liability on forgiven debt. That's something that, in some cases there are taxes due if you have a debt settled. In other cases, there's not. It depends on the situation.
Right.
But it's important as a consumer for you to find out if you're in a situation where that could create a taxable event, because when you're analyzing these different options, that needs to be taken into consideration if you're considering settling the debt and you're looking at, well, how much is it going to cost me to settle the debt versus how much would it cost me if I filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Because that's how you compare different strategies. Okay, I really don't want to do a bankruptcy,
tax owed in a bankruptcy.
But let me look at it, right? It doesn't hurt to look at it. When I have clients look at bankruptcy, it's not because I'm saying you have to file bankruptcy. My focus is, let's look at all these options. We can look at it and say, no, fine, no harm, no foul. There's nothing going on your permanent record if we talk to a bankruptcy attorney and just check it out. But let's say we decide, hey, if I file a bankruptcy, I'll keep my house, keep my car, be able to wipe out this $100,000, and it's going to cost me $2,500 to file the bankruptcy. Okay, well, if you find out that there's something about the bankruptcy you don't like, or you just don't want to do it or whatever, okay, we look at debt settlement. Okay, well, how much is it going to cost me to settle my debt? That might cost $50,000. Then you start to ask yourself, okay, settlement's going to cost me 50 grand over the next couple of years. The bankruptcy is going to cost me 2,500. I really don't want to file the bankruptcy, but
it'll take me 3 months to have all my debt eliminated as well.
Yeah, but do I $50,000 not want to file the bankruptcy?
Right.
Right. So, and again, there's no right or wrong answer to that. You might come back and say, hell no, I $50,000 don't want to file the bankruptcy.
Right. Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your money, it's your credit. So my job is not to say, no, you're wrong, you have to do this. My job is just to make sure you're making decisions based on all the facts and all the information. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. Now, a debt settlement company is never going to do that. They're never going to say, I know, you like my sales pitch and you really want to hire me because I told you how I'm going to fake lower your monthly payment. It sounds really good. But just in case, before we do that, let's just meet with the bankruptcy attorney just to make sure it's not a good answer for you. Not one time in the history of the world has that ever happened. They don't want you to look at anything else because you might accidentally discover that there is a better option. Or even if it's not bankruptcy, it might be a different debt settlement company, or it might be a debt management plan, or it might be somebody like me that says, no, none of these settlement companies are good. There's ways you can settle your debt faster and cheaper.
Right.
Maybe you should look at that option. They don't want you to look at options. Steve mentioned earlier, our focus is, hey, let's look at everything. How is that going to hurt you? There's no logical way you can argue looking at all the options before you make a decision is bad for you, the consumer.
Yeah, and if you want to do X, okay, we'll do X. You made a decision. We talked it through. You didn't make a decision based on fear and panic. And if that's what works best for you, all right, no judgment.
Yeah, any person that's actively discouraging you from looking at other options before making a decision is not looking out for you. They're looking out for them. They don't want you to find something that might be better for your situation. And that's the easy way to tell if you should be paying attention to that person or not.
Here's what Tracy concluded with. She said, they scammed us all hardworking people. It was so wrong. I am so hurt, feel ashamed, and now suffer depression from lack of caring about life anymore. Nothing is enjoyed. I'm sure that when she signed up, it sounded like a magical program. But when we see people come out the other side of these things, they're never really happy events.
Yeah. A litmus test is you call a debt settlement company, talk to the salesperson. Again, this person has talked to you for 20, 30 minutes. They don't really know much about your situation, right? Now you say, okay, hey, that sounds really good. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to talk to my spouse about it. I also want to go meet with the bankruptcy attorney and see what that looks like. And you watch how they react. Do they encourage you to do that? Or do they then start to say all the reasons that they think a bankruptcy is not going to be a good idea for you, even though they don't know anything about you? They had a short conversation with you, but yet now they are an expert about why a bankruptcy is something that's so bad, you should even look at it. Or it's not even bankruptcy. Oh, I'm gonna check out this other company called me. It's a credit counseling plan. It's a little bit different.
No, they'll ruin your credit.
Yeah, they'll launch into, but again, they're competing for your business, right? They're not there to try to help you make a good decision.
That's all.
They're competing for commission. So they won't want you to call a credit counseling program, and the credit counseling salesperson won't want you to call the debt settlement guy back either.
Right. Or the bankruptcy
Nobody wants
attorney.
you to call anybody. They want you to just do their program. That's it.
As I've said for many years, debt settlement hates credit counseling hates debt settlement, and bankruptcy attorneys hate everybody.
Yeah. and everybody else hates bankruptcy.
Yeah. Now, here's one more thing that I always find fascinating. People call a debt relief company and they get a salesperson on the phone. They're sweet talking. They sound like they know what they're doing. But what they don't realize is what you said earlier, Damon, which was a week ago, they were selling alarm systems. They're not a financial advisor. They're a salesperson. You're getting life advice about how you're going to radically change your life for the best or the worst from some 21-year-old kid that has no idea what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last example I always use is, you go into a Ford dealership. They're not going to tell you a Toyota is better for you.
Are you sure? You don't walk in and you tell them, what you're looking for, and they go, oh yeah, our prices are way too high.
Oh,
Right
yeah.
down the street down there, they're running some really cool specials,
Yeah.
and their cars actually overall are higher quality. I think you should go down the street and buy one of those. But
Yeah. And they won't even
don't
tell
tell
you,
my boss I said that.
I know you want this Ford, but there's a Ford dealer 60 miles away with a better deal.
Yeah.
So, if people think that's ridiculous, and they normally do, like a car salesperson is going to fluff the sales pitch, but logic seems to fly out the window when they call a debt relief company. It's because, it's, behavioral economics. They're panicked. They want to find the first magical solution that will make that negative feeling that they have go away and take the stress off. And so that's why it happens. All right. Have we brought this to a successful conclusion, Damon?
Yes, we have. And if we haven't really beat the dead horse enough, there are a plethora of old podcasts on
Oh
this
my
same
God.
subject where we say the same thing again and again and again, and nothing ever changes.
In some of those old shows, we actually go over some of the inside tips that I've received and what people have said, actually happened. Like one of them was, I have to meet my sales quotas, and they're so strict about me doing that they provide cots for us to sleep on and free ramen noodles in the kitchen so we don't have to leave.
What about the 3-day cocaine bender?
Oh, I know. That was a great one. The person said the parking lot was full of Lamborghinis, and there's actually a picture of an office party with a midget like lap dancing on somebody. I'm not making this up. And then the Coke dealer coming by the office every day to deliver drugs.
Yeah, these are the guy. What the heck was that movie where there's probably a couple of Boiler Room? It's like a Boiler Room type of a deal where you got all the frat bros closing the sales, driving their Lamborghinis. But yeah, and this information came from somebody that worked there that quit or was quitting.
Yeah,
right.
Oh,
About the so and so is on another 3-day Coke bender. That was the actual line in the email they sent you.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
And the guy that was running the company was a young guy who died of a heart attack.
He did? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
This is going back, 15 years?
Yeah.
Like back then or recently?
No, back then.
Wow, I didn't know that. That sucks.
Yeah, regulators started coming after him, and he probably, whatever.
Well, let that be a lesson. Drugs are bad, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a South Park reference.
All right, Damon, until next time, I will see ya.
Peace.
Got a money question keeping you up at night? Well, don't just Google it. Get real answers from real people who actually know what they're talking about. Head to getoutofdebt.org/podcast to ask your question, and you might hear it on an upcoming episode. But hey, if you'd rather keep it private, Damon Day has your back. Visit DAMONDAY.com because getting out of debt is easier with the right help. That's getoutofdebt.org/podcast, where smart money questions lead to smarter money moves.